welcome back to another EDH deck tech. Really excited for this one today. So a bit of background on myself. I do like to play Dungeons and Dragons, and when Sivriss was previewed, I was really excited to brew this one. I just started straight away trying to brew what I could with Sivriss, and you know, got a concept that I really liked. I felt like the deck can play aristocrats in all different kinds of ways, considering that it has a mill aspect and a life loss aspect to it. So I really liked the art, and as a kind of D&D character, so you know, it's a race Yaun-Ti. I really love playing Yaun-Ti. Very hard race to play, considering that a lot of Dungeons and Dragon races are xenophobic, and Yaun-Ti aren't really looked kindly at, but I've always enjoyed their lore and their aesthetic, and this art, it's fantastic, right? So I really wanted to build this one, and I think it added an additional layer on top of aristocrats, which I found to be interesting. So I did try to really focus on this commander around its activated ability and around the life loss as well. So you do get to choose a background, so having that background in the command zone has been quite helpful. So I did pair it with Agent of the Iron Throne. So having that aristocrats payoff in the command zone has been nice. I found it's probably maybe 1 mana too much, because essentially it does nothing without Sivriss. So you really needed to focus on Sivriss, right? Because I have a card in the command zone that essentially does nothing without it. So I did try to build the deck focusing around it so that it also can take advantage of the background. So we'll go through the deck. So the reason that I really wanted to build this is I wanted to build Wound Reflection. Wound Reflection is a bit of a pet card. I love decks where I can build Wound Reflection in it. So Sivriss has been really nice because you're asking each of your opponents if they want to take 3. A lot in the earlier parts of the game, they will have no problems taking that 3. And then you hit them with a Wound Reflection, and then the game really starts to turn, alright? So you're hitting them for 6 each turn, and you're really trying to maximize the untap. So Wound Reflection has been a lot of fun. In addition to that, I have put Archfiend of Despair in. I did find that life gain decks were difficult. I'm not playing Erebos, God of the Dead, but that might be something you might want to consider with if your meta is quite life gain heavy. But this one has been a nice backup Wound Reflection. It's also really nice because if I mill it, I can return it with reanimate effects. So Sivriss has been this balancing act of aristocrats payoffs, untapping, and actual aristocrat fodder, all those kind of aspects. So the normal problems you have with aristocrats, but in addition, it's this untapping focus that I have. So Archfiend of Despair has been really great. So the untap is I really wanted to try and maximize Sivriss to untap. So Mage Right Stones in there, nice and cheap, just to untap. Thornby Staff, definitely the best card in the deck. Allows you to essentially machine gun your aristocrats, your sacrifice fodder. So really great to just keep untapping and keep asking the question. If you think you get sick of Ristic Studies, well, wait until you get sick of Sivriss. Patria's Seal has been nice. Just another. It is a mana rock. It's 3 mana rock, but you get to untap your creature, which is really nice. Rings of Briarhearth to copy that activated ability has been also nice. Just 2 mana, just super simple. Staff of Domination, this one's the most expensive of those untapping, but it does allow a bit of versatility. Now I'm not playing any infinite combos that I'm aware of, but you can just add Maggots of the Coffers, goes infinite with this and another card, if you wanted to. So if you want to play that infinite combo, you definitely can, and allow your Sivriss to untap, and essentially machine gun people, but once they know you have an infinite, they're just going to give you the cards anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But you can put that in, as well as it can untap itself. Is really nice. 1,000-year elixir gives us kind of that haste for Sivriss straight away, which is really nice. So you kind of need a turn 2 sacrifice fodder, this on turn 3, then Sivriss on turn 4 to kind of start. But it's nice because it also untaps. And then Umbral Mantle is one that combos with Magus of the Coffers and enough swamps. And then essentially, yeah, you can draw your deck. So if you do want to add that infinite combo, it's just one additional card. You can definitely find a spot for it. So those, and then Lithoform Engine. This will copy our activated ability, but it also has the flexibility of copying permanents as well as spells. So it's a little bit more expensive, but you get that flexibility, which has been really nice. So those are the untapping kind of focus. So really Wound Reflections and untapping, just to ask the question, hey, do you want to take 3? I want to do that as many times. So that has been a lot of fun. So with Aristocrats, of course, you need your fodder. So Bitter Blossom's going to get that fairy every turn. If I'm not sacrificing on a turn, then, you know, I'm getting that fairy and it's kind of staying there for a future turn, which is nice. So you can kind of build up your Thornbite Staff fodder. Bloodghast, great. 1 toughness, very important. And it's going to come when we're playing lands. So hope you know we want to be playing those lands. Dreadhorde Invasion, another nice simple one, really good with Iara. Each turn we're just going to sacrifice that token anyway, so we're going to get a new token each turn, which is going to trigger things like Iara and other, you know, enter the battlefield effects. Jadar, great one, just super cheap, comes down on that 2, so that we can play Agent on 3 or one of our untappers on 3, then Sivriss. So we want that kind of 2, and we don't really care about Decayed, so that's nice. Now the Trader, great in this one because we do utilize that triggered ability to bring it back. 1 toughness also, which is great. Reassembling, classic, you know, we can bring it back for 2 mana out of the graveyard, which is even great when we're milling. So Weapon Craft Enthusiast, so I've got a few of these style cards where it will be a creature and 2 other kind of tokens. I am not playing Nim's Death Mantle or Ashnod's Altar, but that is another combo that's relatively easy to put in this deck. So if you also want to do that combo, you can. So yeah, I haven't included them, but kind of just want to let you know that very easy because the deck's already supporting that kind of style archetype. So you can consider that because then this will support that. So essentially you're just going to make the servo tokens. Chittering Witch, same thing. You know, if you have 3 opponents, you're going to get those rats. Sengir Aristocrat, same thing. For Nim's Death Mantle, Sling and Lieutenant, also same thing. This one, it has its own sacrifice outlet, so if I need life gain for a little bit, I don't have too many goblins, but essentially it is to just have as many tokens in one body. Endrek Sar, you know, I'm playing a lot of cheap creatures that I'm casting, and so I'll get multiple thralls, and then hopefully I can start machine gunning people before I have to sacrifice it. Lolth, it's been nice, so you'll get the spiders, but then you'll do your aristocrats thing, so then you'll be getting loyalty counters on Lolth, and you can actually ultimate in this one quite simply enough in this one, although I'm not really attacking with the creatures, so it's not going to be as valuable. Really, it's there just to give us the spider tokens. And then Tevishzart, same thing. This one, yes, can also ult relatively easy as well, considering that it's a +2 for the thralls, which is what we want predominantly. We're not really sacrificing our commander for draw, but the ult can be very threatening. And then Liliana, Dreadhorde General, creates a token, which is what we want. We also are drawing cards when our creatures are dying, which is also great. It doesn't matter about tokens or not. And the ult is also quite threatening. And then Abhorrent Overlord. Our devotion is very high. We have a lot of permanents in place, and so it's quite nice, and it allows us to have an additional sacrifice outlet. Okay, so our Blood Artist effects, our payoffs, our Agent of the Iron Throne backups. So we want still some of these, even though we have one in the command zone. We still want more of these, only because we want to be draining people for more. So Blood Artist, nice and cheap. It is target only. The Meathook Massacre also works as some removal if you put enough into X, but yes, it essentially is there to help with that Blood Artist effect. Zulaport Cutthroat hits all opponents, which is nice. Ayara, First Lochthwain, again, so this one's the only one that is enter the battlefield. Really great with Dread Horde Invasion, as your token is entering the battlefield all the time, as well as Bitter Blossom. And a lot of our tokens are black, like Weaponcraft Enthusiasts, it's color servos, but most of the others are black. So it's been quite nice. Bastion of Remembrance, another one. It gives us a token as well, which has been great. So Conrad the Grim, very interesting, because with our mill, we will be milling creatures as well. And then some of those creatures will come back. So we'll get those multiple triggers, which has been really nice for Sir Conrad. So those are the Aristocrat kind of payoffs. So we are milling in this deck. You know, at some point your opponents will go, no, you can have it, but a lot in the early game is like, no, you can just put them in the graveyard. So Reanimate's been really good. There are not too many key reanimation targets outside of Archfiend of Despair or Grey Merchant of Asphodel, which is also in the deck, but you still want it there as value, and also then, you know, you can get it from your opponent's stuff. So Animate Dead as a nice backup. And then Agadeem's Awakening. We have a lot of creatures on our curve, starting from all the way from 2 and up. So Agadeem's Awakening's been nice just to, A, it's a land, and B, if we need a reanimation effect, we can have it. So it's been really nice. And then Living Death. I don't care about my opponent's creatures too much. I want my creatures that I've milled to be brought back. So Living Death has been really, really great. Just a little bit of protection, not too much, only because the deck is very cluttered anyway. So really you have to just hope that Sivriss is going to stay there. But Malakir Rebirth has been nice because, you know, it is a land on the other side, so great value. And the Grey Merchant of Asphodel, just as a bit of an alternative Wink Edition. We have a lot of permanents in place, a lot of devotion, so this one kind of helps close the game. So card draw, Skull Clamp, great. We have a lot of 1 toughness tokens, Bloodghast, things like that. So absolutely great for card draw. I mean, at some point you're going to be drawing 3 cards from Sivriss's effect, but this is more for the early game. Keen Duelist to help kind of support that burn strategy that we have going on. So just to kind of help hit people's opponents. Now, I wouldn't say that our mana curve is very high. So if you had a draw spell that you preferred in this slot, this is probably the worst of them, but it does help support that burn. You know, you're going to hit them for maybe 2, 3, 4-ish, maybe on average 3, assuming you don't get any lands, but yeah, it's been nice, it's been fun. Black Market Connection, nice new one. I haven't really done the Changeling token in this deck, but drawing card, you know, I paid 3 life to draw the card and create a treasure, so it's been quite a nice ramp. Morbid Opportunist, especially because Sivriss, I can do it instant speed, so I can do it on someone else's turn, so I can do it on my turn, maybe untap it with something, and then do it on opponent's turn. So getting that card draw has been nice. Phyrexian Arena, just simple, just every turn get an additional card. And then Protection Racket. It's been a fun one. This is probably also another bad one, but it kind of supports the burn aspect of it. So they will pay life or exile it. So it is a pity that it is exiled. You know, it's always preference for it to go in the graveyard. But again, it's asking my opponents and it's doing the kind of burn thing. This one could be easily removed for some other, you know, Knight's Whisper, Sign in Blood, those classics, you can just put in those slots. But I wanted to kind of encourage that burn theme going on. So some removal, simple Defile, we're playing a lot of swamps. Gets around indestructible. Tragic Slip, you know, Morbid is very easy to trigger for this deck, so great effect, pretty much kills anything. Feed the Swarm for enchantments because we can't really deal with them. Deadly Rollick, we definitely want our commander out, so you know, I want this as much as possible, and it's a nice exile effect. Hagra Mauling, it's a bad removal, but it's also a land on the other side, so if I need to play it as a land, which is most of the case, you know, this has been great to have. Snuff Out, instant speed, free. Yes, it does non-black, but there's still a lot of value in there. And then Dictate of Erebos, and I also have Grave Pact as well. So these two pretty much do the same thing. You know, we're doing a lot of Aristocrats, so these are pretty solid in Aristocrats, especially if we can get Thornbite Staff in. These are just going to trigger, and essentially keep the board clear. Toxic Deluge as my board wipe. Great, gets around indestructible. Damnation, just super solid. And then Mutilate, we've got a lot of swamps in place, so that's great. Okay, so ramp, you know, pretty much just my standard ramp package. Dark Ritual, Soul Rings, great. Arcane Signet, so a lot of those 2 mana. Mana Rocks, Cabal Ritual. Now Threshold is very easy in this deck, so that's really essentially 5 mana. Fellwar Stone, someone will be playing black, and if not, it's essentially colors. Jet Medallion, we have a lot of black permanents, a lot of like 1 in blacks, like your Bitter Blossoms and things like that. You're reassembling skeletons, it's been great. Mindstone helps with a little card draw as well. Thought Vessel, the maximum hand size, not really too important until the late game, so this has actually been quite handy. Crypt Gas for doubling our swamps. We have a lot of swamps. Nakana Revenant also doubling our swamps, and this one can be reanimated, you know, if milled easily enough. So lands, Ancient Tomb, just easy, 2 colorless, especially with our commander who's just a 3 colorless and a black. Bajuka Bog, great for exiling. Buried Ruin, something I added later in my brewing. When I mill my untapping kind of effects, that has been, you know, pretty bad. So I've just got a Buried Ruin just in case as a backup of, oh, hey, I've milled enough of, you know, I've milled Thornbite Staff or something like that. Let's just get it back. Cabal Coffers, playing a lot of swamps, you know, taps for heaps of mana. Cabal Stronghold, playing a lot of basic swamps, so you know, this one's obviously not as good as Cabal Coffers, but still, you know, later in the game it's going to get a net you 1 or 2 few more mana. Castle Lochthwain, just for some additional card draw. If our opponents are not giving us those cards, then sometimes, you know, I've needed a little extra. Nykthos, Strider Nyx, Devotion is important. We're going to have Devotion because, you know, we have our commander and our background that we want to be playing. Phyrexian Tower, you know, we're an aristocrats, so we have extra tokens lying around. Sometimes we can't utilize them with our commander, so it's been great for some ramp. Strip Mine, I always play a land destruction land in all of my decks, depending on your budget. This, Wasteland, Ghost Quarter, Tectonic Edge, stuff like that. Just great. Somebody has a Field of the Dead or their own Cabal Coffers, so it's been really useful. Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, turn everything into swamps, works for Mutilate, Defile, Cabal Coffers, things like that. If you're playing Magus of the Coffers, if you want to put that in your deck for your Umbral Mantle combo, you know, it all just works for that. And then War Room, another one where it's just like have that card draw in my command, in my land slot, which is nice. And then 23 basic swamps. So, you know, playing a lot of those swamps. So Sivriss it's been a lot of fun. That kind of burn aspect, most of the time it's, you know, winning through the aristocrats avenue, and then maybe a grey merchant of Asphodel to kind of help finish it off. I've found that opponents, you know, will just put stuff into your graveyard at the start, and then at some point they're going to be like, oh no, I need to just give you the card. And it's like, well, it's a lose-lose, double-edged sword kind of situation, which I've really enjoyed. And I like that kind of mind game with my opponents. It's like, hey, you need to start giving me those cards because I'm going to start whittling you down with aristocrats effects. And at some point, they're not going to be able to get out of it. So I have really enjoyed that aspect. And having the payoff in the command zone's been nice as well. So yeah, so that's the deck. I hope you enjoyed the deck, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks.